the US will not go into recession. The important thing is that the US has imposed tariffs on most countries. In fact, all its imports will carry a tariff of 10%. But the tariffs on the other countries, including 26% on India, additional 34% on China, 46% on Vietnam, etc., come into effect on April the 9th. Most countries are actually negotiating with the US, including Vietnam. Vietnam understands that it exports far more to the US than it imports from the US, and that needs to change. So if Vietnam offers to import much more from the US, then that bilateral trade surplus that Vietnam runs with the US will shrink, and the US will agree to reduce the tariffs from 46% to somewhat lower. Similarly, India has been negotiating with the US in the run-up to this, and those negotiations may or may not conclude by April the 9th, but I think there is the scope for a mutual reduction in tariffs from the levels that the US has now imposed. And that is the likely outcome. So there is not going to be a recession in the US by any means. In fact, I think that many of these measures will strengthen US manufacturing and strengthen the US economy overall, although there'll be an initial negative impact on inflation. Inflation will go up. Note also that over the last 24 hours, there's been a substantial sell-off in oil prices. That is good for India, it's good for the US, and it's good for inflation numbers in the US in particular. So if the continued sell-off in oil prices continues, especially given that OPEC Plus has agreed to increase the supply of oil in world markets, then the inflationary impact also will be somewhat mitigated.